Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC Guy. Today on the DCC Guy, I want to talk a little bit more about Tortoise switch machines. You know, in my video on pre-wiring these little guys, I mentioned that they occasionally do break down. They have one small weakness, and after the break, I'll go ahead and tell you how you can determine when one of these poor little guys is sick and how you can cure it. Okay, so Tortoise switch machines have gotten a little bit expensive, and so has all the competition for that matter. Just about everything in model railroading is more expensive. But at any rate, I mentioned in the video that occasionally these do break down, and they have one inherent weakness. Internally, they have a couple of bronze finger-like contacts that sweep across the circuit board and make the different connections for you. Now, those do tend to break off of the swing arm that they are attached to. I buy a lot of these at train shows and off of eBay and places like that. And occasionally you get a broken one coming in the order or at the train show. So there's one quick way though for you to tell whether or not you've got a broken Tortoise switch machine internally without opening it up. And that is to give it a little shake. So listen to this. You hear that little rattle? If you take a brand new switch machine, it doesn't rattle like that, okay? That little rattle is indicative of the fact that the little bronze finger contacts internally have broken loose, and they're rattling around and they're free and not making any connections for you. Now, you can also tell by simply looking at the instruction sheet that comes with the Tortoises and identifying the contacts on the board and using a volt-ohm meter to measure resistance and continuity and determine which of these switches are not working. And if you're lucky, only one of them is not working, and you can wire everything to the one that is, which is what I did with this one. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to open this one up and I'm going to show you how you can fix the problem. Basically though, it's fairly straightforward. Only takes common tools and some very small screws. And I'll talk about those in a minute. So before I do that though, let me point out, when a Tortoise switch machine is brand new, it comes with a warranty. I can't remember, it might be 90 days, it might be a year, whatever. But the vast majority of people probably never install most of their Tortoise switch machines before the warranty expires. So for those of you who might be considering popping one of these things open to fix it, if it does seem like it's broken, remember if you're within the warranty period, resist that urge, send it back and let them fix it or replace it for you. If it's outside the warranty period, it doesn't matter, okay, because they're not going to fix it for you. What you have to do though, I will show you. Okay, so let me go ahead, get the camera readjusted so we can zoom in on the workbench, and we'll get started on taking this little sucker apart and giving it the quick cure. Okay, the first step in this process is to take the Tortoise switch machine apart. Now you'll notice here that this label covers up the screw holes that we need to get to. So what you need to do then is just expose these screw holes. You can, punch them out with a screwdriver, whatever, use a knife, anything. And you'll see that each of the corners and dead center on this label, there is a screw hole. And it's fairly easy to pull these out of their positions. I'm going to make some noise here, so sorry. Okay, that gets those out. Okay, now, at this point, all you have to do is support this board so everything won't fall apart and lift it off. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, there I've zoomed in a little bit more. And what I want to show you here is this little guy here. This is one of those little bronze finger contacts that has broken loose, and that's what was rattling inside when I gave it a shake a minute ago. So let me set that aside. Now, if you look at how these work, they basically have this sweep arm here, and as it moves back and forth, the contacts, or these little fingers, make contacts with traces here on the circuit board. And that is what provides the switching action for the single pole double throw switches that are part of the design on this device. Now, the problem with these is these little bronze contacts here are attached to this plastic sweep arm on little projections that stick up, and then there's two little holes through these. I don't know if you can see these or not, but in each one of these you can see there's two holes, and those sit over these little plastic projections, and then they're heat sealed in there. And over time, the little projections that come up through those holes break off. You can see them here. Okay, so what we need to do, now let me point out that on occasion, you will have just enough of that sticking up so that you might be able to put this back in place and then hit it with a soldering iron and melt it back down, the little projection, and melt it back into place. But by and large, that's not the way it is. Okay, so what we need to do then is find a different way to reattach these little bronze wipers to this sweep arm, okay? If you look real close here on this one, you can see I've already repaired this one once by placing two small screws here through those screw holes. Now, so what I want to do then is I'm cutting this down so that those little nibs that stick up and hold these contacts in place are flush with the surface. Then I'm going to take this device here, and this is called a dubbing needle. It's something that fly fishermen use for dubbing their flies, but it's nice. It's got a nice little needle on the tip here, and I use it also for some of my model railroading stuff. But what you want to do then is place that needle or any other sharp device right on that tip that we smoothed out, and you can see the spot where it's located, and make an indentation in each one of those little spots like this. And that's going to serve as a dimple where you can then use a pin vise drill bit, get it set in there, and go ahead and drill out the hole. Now, the size of the bit is going to depend on the size of the screws you get. So I'll talk about those in just a second. But at any rate, let me go ahead and drill out both of these holes here. Got the first one done. There's the second one. It doesn't take long. Okay? And hopefully you can see here, I've got two small holes drilled right here where those little nibs were located previously. You can see there's one and two right there. Okay? I've opened them up a little bit. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is the screws. Now, the screws that I used for this project here are a couple of ones that are left over from previous model railroading installation, decoder installations, where I removed the circuit board, and these tiny screws were used to hold that circuit board in place. And I've got several of these. One thing I will give you a tip: never throw away a screw. There's always a use for them. I have a box of screws that I've been collecting for 50 years, and anytime I need one, I can go find exactly what I need. And that was the case with these because I saved them. Now, where can you buy these? You might be able to find them at your local hobby shop. Some hobby shops have them, some don't. You can buy an assortment of what are called micro screws from Micromark. I checked today, and they do have those, an assortment of them. They're not cheap. They're like 25 bucks for an assortment. However, you can also go on eBay, and you can get them dirt cheap there. You can get 1,000 for a few dollars shipped to you from China, and that typically includes shipping. Okay, so what I want to do then is we're going to want to take this screw, and I'm going to use it to create threads in these holes that I just drilled. So I'm going to start the little screw in the hole and just run it in far enough so that I'm creating some threads there for it. So that'll make it easier to install later on. Okay, let me get the other one out too. Okay, so I've got two of these the same size, and these are nice because they're sort of like a wood screw in that they're pointed at the end, and therefore they will go in there quite easily and create threads. So we'll be able to install these little contacts. So what I'm going to do is, I've got it right on the tip of the screwdriver. I'm going to insert it into that hole. Okay, so I've got it in here, got it started, and we'll give it a couple of turns to get it in there and hold this down. And now that I've got one of them started, I can go ahead and we'll add the second one here. So, okay, let's get this one down in through here. Okay, I'm going to place this down here on the top of the bench top where I can get a little bit more force on it. Okay, now you can see they're both firmly attached to the sweep arm. Now, at this point, it's very important that you have kept this all together, because otherwise you're going to have gears all over the place. I then go ahead, drop this back into place here, and there's a slot for it, and then drop this side into place. Okay, and I've got alignment in here. I'm going to bring this up, and you can see right here the fingers are clearly on the circuit trace that we want. All of these are where they should be. So now when it moves back and forth, it's going to make that contact that we want, and we're going to have that switch working again properly. Okay, now I had one of the gears pop out, so let me go ahead and drop that back into place here. I have to figure out which way it was facing. I think they all face with the small gear outward. Yes, like that. Okay, so that's the way it's supposed to look like when you've got it back together, with all of these gears lined up, and this gives you that nice reduction of speed that you get with the Tortoise switch machine. And then this little guy here will be able to sweep the way it's supposed to. So now, before it jumps out of here and gets away from me, I'm going to put the lid back on. And that holds everything together. And you can see the sweep arm moves the way it should. Okay. Now it's a simple matter then to put everything back together. I'm going to drop all these screws back into place. And we will go ahead and clamp this down. And that's it. It's all ready to go back into the layout. You can see it moves quite easily. And best of all, There's no rattling sound from the inside now. So that's all it takes. Something to push a nice depression into the sweep arm to serve as a starting point for your drill bit. Your drill bit that matches the size of the screw that you're going to be using. And you want to use a small screw. You don't want big ones at all. A pair of small tweezers helps, small screwdriver, and a number 17 X-Acto to scrape it down nice and smooth. And that's about all there is to it. Okay, so the next time one of your Tortoise switch machines craps out on you and stops switching power, give it a try and, resurrect a switch machine. You might be able to find some dead ones for practically nothing at your next train show. So enjoy, have a good weekend.